Okay, here we are again. Welcome back, everybody. This is the We Quit Booze Brothers, which is a podcast where we try to have honest, no fluff conversations about our various experiences of quitting alcohol. And with me, as always, is my brother Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Yep, here we are back again, Sunday morning, ready to go. Well, we're sort of ready to go. We've been having a few technical issues. We've come to the full-blown conclusion after some period of time that Mark's internet connection is shit. Anyway, hopefully it won't affect this podcast. Yeah, we're bringing you another topic, another great topic, we hope.
It's,
Yeah,
it's,
hopefully, Mark,
it's
you're still with us and not too laggy. So. I'll
Yeah,
pass back to you.
sorry about that. If it is bad, we apologise. But like Matt said, after rigorous examination, we've come to the technical conclusion that my internet is pants. So I don't know why that's the case. I have no idea. Although the two tin cans and the wet piece of string from my house to the exchange, that might be an indication of why things aren't so great. But there you go. So yeah, hi, yeah, welcome back, everyone. We managed to get together on a Sunday morning, so it doesn't seem to feel that long ago since we did the last one. But we're back on a Sunday morning. So and as always, got another interesting topic to just sort of riff on and discuss and talk about. This was one that you came up with, Matt. So this was your suggestion.
Yes.
Do you want to introduce the topic
Yeah,
and we'll go
sure,
from there?
absolutely. Yeah, no. So I was thinking about, what happens when you stop. You've done this incredible thing. You've decided that you're going to quit alcohol. You've done all the hard work. You've stopped, and then you need to start to think about like who you are. And that, I'm not going into some sort of hippie prophecy here, although you can if you want. But what does your identity become? So we were thinking about the kind of title of rewiring your identity when you're no longer the party one. And that I think everyone will resonate with because, why does drugs and alcohol or just alcohol or whatever it might be, why does that come into play in the first place? And I think the majority of people, the vast majority of people, it comes with some form of, enjoyment. You don't do it at the beginning, certainly, because it's not enjoyable. I don't think that is the case. There's always some form of fun, experience, enjoyment when you start to drink. And the thing is, as we've been through many times on this podcast, is that goes from fun to a habit and quite often to addiction. And then you hopefully watch people like us and you make a decision, you make this incredible decision to stop drinking. And when you do, you suddenly go from someone who everybody associates with wanting to socialize, whether that be at home, whether that be outside, or some people go to an extreme where they become very reclusive and drink on their own, etc. But I think a lot of people, particularly in that grey zone, those tier two drinkers you talk about, Mark, they're really those drinkers who are heavy into socializing. And despite all my troubles, I still associate myself as the sort of the party one, the one who on a Friday night, yeah, come round, we'll get a load of wine. I'll be honest, it was sort of my excuse to be able to drink more in many ways. The whole idea of organising a barbecue on a Saturday lunchtime wasn't just for my guests, it was also my excuse to be able to drink all day. But when you stop, that all stops because it's not what you want to do anymore. The reality is when you stop drinking, people ask the question, oh, what do you do? Do you go to bars? Do you go to... I do sometimes, but I don't really want to. I don't need to. I'm very happy to go to the pub and have a drink with someone, to have some food and stay for an hour or two. But I'm no longer that party person. I think the first thing that happens, and then I'll probably switch over to you, Mark, because I know you've got some stuff to talk about, is you will lose friends. that's just inevitable. You are going to lose a section of, and when I say friends, I don't actually mean friends. I mean entourage. I mean acquaintances. You will probably not see quite a few people that you used to see, or certainly not on the frequency that you did, simply because they were drinking acquaintances. They were the people you would invite because they knew they were like you, and they would bring the party you wanted. So it really does. Your identity completely changes, and that's a good thing. And it's a good thing. I've spoken many times about this return to self, and this is all part of it. So yeah, first point I'd say is, get ready to lose those acquaintances, that entourage, but don't look at that as a bad thing. You're not upsetting anyone, you're just changing.
Mm. There's a really good phrase that I've heard. I can't remember where I heard it, and it's you have three types of friends in life. You have friends for a reason, friends for a season, and friends for a lifetime. And I really do think that when you quit alcohol, there is that sort of friends for a season, or maybe it's slightly friends for a reason, I don't know, that sort of fades away. I definitely experienced that. And of course when you stop drinking, there are some, I'm using the inverted commas thing if you're listening to this on Spotify, just in case, there are some friends who you don't represent a viable option for them anymore because you were always the person they drank with. And if you think about it, that says a lot about the friendship. It talks to, was there real connection? Was there real meaning? Or were you just convening around a thing that you both did together or that you all did together, which was the alcohol? And from the alcohol, you created this sort of faux pretend relationship. And I think the big thing for me with this subject is that what quitting alcohol did for me is it allows you to reconnect with yourself. It allows you to stop pretending to be somebody and start really connecting with somebody. And by stopping drinking, it doesn't happen overnight. This isn't something that, the behavior starts first. The sort of identity and the meaning, I think follows. And what I mean by that is that for me, it takes a little while to shake off the old identity. I think you sort of, almost, your brain is so wired into, that's who I am, that's how I operate. And I found over a period of time that that starts when you start to get confronted with the real you, the you that isn't, amped up on booze, the you that isn't, I have this phrase in my head of, I stopped performing and I started connecting. That sounds a bit wanky, but it felt to me when I was drinking like it was a performance. It was just a sort of a, you talked about it, Matt. Everyone thought I was the party person. It was all set on false pretense. It wasn't the real you. B, it wasn't really the real reason you were doing it. You were doing it, as I was, because you wanted to drink more. And that all suddenly goes away and you're just left with you. The sort of the armor, if you like, if you can call it that, or the cloak, or the identity is just, you're laid bare, and you have to get to know who you are. And heads up, you might not like it all. There might be parts of it that make you feel quite uncomfortable. Maybe social anxiety will come into play. Maybe you're not quite as funny as you thought you were. Definitely the case in your case. Um, Maybe social, because social interaction takes on a completely different format. You're not just getting drunk and talking bollocks. You're actually, starting to have real conversations and real connections. Somebody left a comment actually on our on our YouTube channel, which I thought was great, which was to talk about, I guess he said, I guess alcohol takes meaning away, and when you get sober, it sort of creates the space for you to find meaning. But what my roundup point would be, you are going to get to know you now when you stop drinking, and you're going to love a lot of it. It's amazing. There will be parts of you that you might not feel 100% comfortable but what getting sober does is it allows you to start to make the changes that you want to make in order for you to become the person that you really want to be in this world. And 9 years in, I can tell you that's exactly where I am at. I still get, there's still things which, create fear or anxiety, or, I don't live, not, nobody lives a perfect life. Everybody is dealing with shit. Everybody's got, challenges. But because I don't drink, it's cleared the way for me to really lean into who I am as a person and start to feel really comfortable. And I think it's a journey. I don't think it ever ends. I think you just keep going and going. And from that perspective, I'm now able to form new relationships. Sometimes new relationships with people that I knew before. I'm sort of restructuring that relationship. Our relationship, you and me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so much. I feel like I know you so much. We've always been very close, which is really great. But this relationship has changed, and it's so much better, and it's so different. And you and I can have real conversations now, not just like drunk lies that we would sort of, tell ourselves that we were like, going to take on the world. So summarizing what I'm trying to say, the relationship that really counts is the one that you have with yourself. That changes when you get sober. There will be things you love and there will be things that you're not so sure about. But the things that you're not so sure about, because you're not drinking, because you're not pretending, because you're not arsing about, you can actually do the work to start to change those. And you can become the person that you want. And from that perspective, you will make friendships and build relationships with people that are much more. A great example was on Friday morning, I had coffee with a guy that I'd just been chatting to on and off in the gym, same age as me, going through a divorce. We started chatting and we met for coffee and we had a really interesting conversation. It was a nice discussion between two grown men who weren't in a pub, who weren't getting drunk, who weren't going to wake up in the morning thinking, fucking hell, what did I say? Was I a dick last night? It was just I can't tell you how enriching for the soul that type of existence is compared to when you drink.
Yeah, it's really, really true. So it's so true that, so true. One of the points you made, which I have to just talk about because it's so true, is you're absolutely right. When you do quit, you do change. So that rewiring your identity, you is rewiring the right word, or is it you go back to actually your fundamentals of who you are? Now, those fundamentals of who you are, you may have to learn to live with again. So, for example, I am not a particularly confident person. I can't work a room, for example. I can't, I'm not one of those people who can go in and just go and chat freely to people. And, in the work I'm in, there are times when I have to go and speak to, those senior people, and I'm not that comfortable with it because sometimes those people, I don't really have anything in common with them particularly. It's fine. But before, I would have fallen back on the drink and, 2, 3 beers in or more, in those events that you have at work, I would have been maybe a bit more of a free talker, should I say. Then I sit and think about those situations. And then I find myself in situations where it's the reverse. I have someone coming to me who's had 3 or 4 beers and talking to me. And then I realize, actually, they're a bit of a dick. There's repetition. There's, they're not really talking about things that are of interest. And that then makes me think, you know what, being you is a good thing. That's fine. Just be you, be slightly shy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's better than the dick you were when you were that party person, because I often thought I was someone I absolutely wasn't. And that is just the wrong way to be in life. It really is, And then, I think actually one thing I wanted to touch on earlier, which I didn't touch on, I need to say this because it is important, is when you do make that change, there will be people, believe it or not, some people who are disappointed in your choice because they will not understand, or they will not have really properly fathomed possibly your just how bad things had got. Uh, Let those people go. Honestly, you don't need those people. There will be people who say, oh, just why don't you just knock it on the head for a few months, or just calm down, just drink less, because actually it will be for their benefit. They don't want to lose you as that drinking buddy, because you also help them to fund their drinking ambitions as well. And that does happen. There are people I just do not speak to anymore because we only had a relationship around drink. I mean, whenever I saw them, we were best of friends and all that, but it was all built on false premises. So, I think to finish from my side, my identity then, honestly, when I look at it, was one of zero ambition. I just wafted through life. Mark, you're so right. We had good times together, but it was good times based around drink. I don't think we ever really spent time together, or not much, when it wasn't about alcohol. And now that has completely changed, and we talk about really cool subjects. I seek advice, and vice versa, and that's just really great. Everything before appeared in control, but it absolutely wasn't. I actually look back and I don't know how I got things done. I just don't know. I couldn't do what I'm doing now if I was still drinking. It would be absolutely impossible, that old identity. And I think now it's all stopped. Now everything's changed. I actually feel that I've earned my place at the table, and that feels good.
Yeah, love it. Love it. I think that's it, mate. I don't think there's an awful lot more to say. It is exactly that. I think for people that are listening to this that are, on this journey considering sobriety, what we want to try to do is just outline to you this incredible transformation. To me, it's such an incredible cheat code, the ability to just not drink, the things that open up, the journey, the discovery. You change your behavior in so many different ways, and you just can't ever imagine how you got through life when you look back. And I just want to touch on the confidence thing that you mentioned, because I think that's something which plays a part for a lot of people, with sort of linked into anxiety. Sometimes, there's the term Dutch courage, isn't there, which is, have a few drinks, etc. I just want to say, from the sort of journey that I've been on, one of the things I've learned, people over-index on confidence. It's not about confidence. Confidence is irrelevant. You don't have to be confident. I don't always feel particularly confident doing these podcasts. You can feel, there can be nerves. It's not about how confident you are. It's about how you think, and it's about what you do. And I think the more important thing is having the courage. And I think if you quit drinking, I just think it's one of the most courageous things a human can do. It's so brave. And by the way, people talk about really courageous people, maybe in a room where you're having to work the room or you're having to present, which I also don't feel comfortable with. I had a really good thing the other day as well, actually, which is not, it's a bit no shit Sherlock, but just bear with me, is the point people talk about really courageous people. The more courageous you are, the more fearful you have to be, because courage doesn't exist without fear. If there was no fear, there would be no courage. You've got to be fearful. That's normal. That's a natural human state, to be frightened, to be scared. But to do it anyway is incredibly liberating. And again, getting sober will allow you to work through some of those issues. So if there are things in your life that you want to change, if there are relationships that you want to either improve or get rid of, if there are just changes in you to sort of make you a better person, and you're drinking, the best thing you could do right now is to quit drinking, hands down. No argument, no contest. Do that, and the activity will then follow, and the changes will come.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. And it's a good way to finish, I think.
Any final thing from you, Matt, or are we?
Yeah, I did actually just want to say one last thing. So we had a comment this week from someone on our YouTube channel who said, "Hey guys, I unsubscribed because you didn't respond to some of my comments. Super sorry about that. Honestly, we do normally try to reply to everyone. So if we did miss you, it's not because we meant to. It's purely because we didn't see it or we, we just got sidetracked. But please, 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 do subscribe. We do read the comments. They really spur us on. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We're just a tiny little channel. We just do this because we want to and because we hope it helps. So yeah, apologies if we missed you. We didn't mean to.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Brilliant. Thanks for that, Matt. So, as I always say, never quit quitting. It is goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him. Till the next time. Cheers. Bye for now.